It is Sunday, the 26th of November, 2017. I'm in front of the Unitarian Church of Montreal. I'm just starting up my alternative spiritual practice of protesting against Unitarian Universalists, injustices, abuses, and hypocrisy. And it's a nice sunny day, a little on the cold side, a little bit of snow on the ground, but basically a very nice day. And we're just going to start walking back and forth with a couple of picket signs. But I want to look at this one right here, which is about the fact that Montreal Unitarian, or possibly former Montreal Unitarian, because it's not clear to me if Sue Montgomery is still a member or regular attendee of the Unitarian Church of Montreal. Nonetheless, Sue Montgomery, in her capacity as the Gazette's justice reporter, repeatedly refused to report on any aspect of the justice issues that I'm protesting about outside the Unitarian Church of Montreal. I asked her on several different occasions, in her capacity as a Gazette reporter, to report on what I was protesting about, which includes clergy sexual abuse, and even includes what the Unitarian Universalist Association's Canadian attorney describes as such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape. And I'm not just protesting against the despicable crimes themselves, but also the fact that the Unitarian Universalist Association, to say nothing of quite a number of Unitarian Universalist churches and individual Unitarian Universalists, have tried to keep these things concealed from the public as much as they can. So this picket sign is basically based on the being raped, never reported meme, or hashtag, Twitter hashtag. We got a bit of gusting wind here this morning. Yeah, it's kind of funny how the wind came up just when I spoke about being raped, never reported, because there's a certain amount of wind involved in that. So anyway, getting back to this, Sue Montgomery, in 2014, in the fall of 2014, along with another journalist, whose name is, I have it, but I'm just not sure I'm going to pronounce it properly, so I'm not going to pronounce it. But anyway, Sue Montgomery was the co-founder of the Being Raped, Never Reported hashtag. And unfortunately, the statement that I was able to create around that hashtag is entirely 100% factual. Helpless children have been raped by Unitarian Universalist ministers and Sunday school teachers, but the Gazette's retired justice reporter, Sue Montgomery, never reported the UUA's misuse of blasphemy law in clergy abuse, cover-up, legal bullying. Oh, there goes the wind again. Yeah, a lot of wind involved in the Unitarian Universalist Association's misuse of blasphemy law in efforts to hide pedophilia and rape. Pure wind, as George Orwell might say. And of course, when I say wind, I mean, you know, empty words, bullshit, and so on. It was completely false accusation. I was absolutely not guilty of the criminal act of blasphemous libel for blogging about Unitarian Universalist pedophiles and rapists who were actually charged, tried, and convicted of such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape and sentenced to jail terms for their despicable crimes. But that didn't stop the Unitarian Universalist Association from hiring its Stikeman Elliott litigation lawyer, Maitre Marc-Andre Coulombe, to have me served with a cease and desist matter, which, amongst other highly misleading and outright false accusations, falsely accused me of the criminal act of blasphemous libel for allegedly making, and this is an exact quote from the letter, unfounded and vicious allegations to the effect that ministers of the association engage in such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape. I'll just repeat that because I might have slightly misspoken there. I'll repeat the whole line more or less. The letter said, your unfounded and vicious allegations to the effect that ministers of the association engage in such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape are defamatory. And I went on to say that these allegedly unfounded and vicious allegations were so defamatory that they constituted the criminal act of blasphemous libel, essentially blaspheming against the Unitarian Universalist religious community. There's a bit of a problem in that assertion, beginning with the fact that my allegations about Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell and Richard Buell of First Parish Norwell were by no means unfounded, nor were they particularly vicious in my view. They were very, very truthful allegations based on publicly available information, reliable publicly available information, i.e. not just internet postings by individuals who may or may not have been telling the truth, but also newspaper reports that have been published about the fact that Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell and also Richard Buell were both at different times and in different places charged, tried, and convicted of committing such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape. When I say different places, I mean different towns in Massachusetts. They were both Unitarians in Massachusetts, but the rapes were not related and took place at different times in different towns. So I'm not saying that Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell and Richard Buell were, in any way, colluding with each other or anything like that. But what I am saying is that various Unitarian Universalists, including, I have very reasonable grounds to believe, Reverend Dr. Victoria Weinstein of First Parish Norwell, and other top-level leaders of the Unitarian Universalist Association certainly colluded with each other and with the Unitarian Universalist Association's Canadian attorney, Maitre Marc-André Coulombe of Stikeman Elliott Barristers and Solicitors, to falsely accuse me of blasphemous libel and legal bullying, which clearly sought to intimidate me into taking down, also known as memory holing, the Emerson Avenger blog post that told the readily verifiable truth about how both Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell and Richard Buell were charged, tried, and convicted of such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape. And of course, the whole purpose of a cease and desist demand letter is not simply to intimidate a person into, retracting or getting rid of, things that they've already said, but it's also intended to dissuade them from saying anything more. It's intended to essentially be a gag order, like shut up or else kind of thing, So for me, from my perspective, the false blasphemous libel accusation against me, to say nothing of some of the other false accusations, wasn't simply a question of trying to conceal, what I'd already said about pedophilia and rape committed by Unitarian Universalists, to say nothing of other sexual abuse committed by Unitarian Universalists, but to intimidate me into not saying anything more about any other cases of pedophilia and rape and other clergy sexual abuse. Needless to say, I made it very clear to both Maitre Marc-Andre Coulombe and the Unitarian Universalist Association that I had no intention whatsoever of deleting so much as a comma from my blog posts about the Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell and Richard Buell, and that I had no intention of shutting up about clergy sexual abuse or even non-clergy sexual abuse committed by Unitarian Universalists. For instance, Unitarian Universalist Sunday school teachers, also known as UUA religious educators, have been known to commit such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape, and even be sentenced to lengthy jail terms for committing such despicable crimes. I don't mind naming one of them, Stephen Craig Bullite. If I might have the middle name wrong, but I think it's Stephen Bullite in any case, but I'm pretty sure the middle name is Craig. If you Google Stephen Craig Bullite, you should find some pretty reliable information about his sex crimes. In any case, I hadn't blogged about Stephen Craig Bullite or various other Unitarian Universalist pedophiles prior to being accused of blasphemous libel by Maitre Marc-Andre Coulombe on behalf of the Unitarian Universalist Association. But I knew of various other cases of sexual abuse of children, some of which were, very reliable testimony that I could be absolutely sure was true, and other, less reliable testimony, basically hearsay or even first-hand witness accounts, but first-hand witness accounts that were hard to prove. So I was very careful to only blog about cases where Unitarian Universalists had actually been charged, tried, and convicted and sentenced to jail terms, prison sentences, in order to protect myself from being accused of libel or slander. It never occurred to me that I would actually be accused of even ordinary civil libel for blogging about Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell and Richard Buell's rape of young girls, including preteen girls in the case of Richard Buell, who I described as a pedophile rapist as a result of his being convicted of raping girls who were no older than 12 years old at the time that the rapes took place. So in any case, I really had no expectation of being even accused of libel. I didn't think Unitarian Universalists were stupid enough to accuse a person of libel when they could easily prove that what they were saying was true. But I found out the hard way that not only were Unitarian Universalists stupid enough to accuse me of civil libel, which, basically would mean a lawsuit, not criminal charges, but they actually had the unmitigated gall and incredible stupidity, really, to falsely accuse me of what's called blasphemous libel, which is essentially a fancy legal way of saying blasphemy. I was being accused of blaspheming against the Unitarian Universalist Church because I had blogged about a couple of their pedophiles and rapists. Truly outrageous behavior on the part of the Unitarian Universalist Association. Behavior that I can very reasonably describe as being immoral and unethical, with a big capital UN, unethical, borderline criminal, and if you don't mind my saying so, batshit crazy, truly insane behavior on the part of UUA President Reverend Dr. Peter Morales, who had to have authorized this and who certainly condoned it, and UUA Executive Vice President Kathleen K. Montgomery, who would have been the person most responsible for coordinating the work of Maitre Marc-Andre Coulombe and perhaps other Stikeman Elliott lawyers. There's no question that Kathleen K. Montgomery, the now retired executive vice president of the Unitarian Universalist Association, had a significant involvement in this false blasphemous libel accusation against me. And then, of course, there's Reverend Dr. Victoria Weinstein of First Parish Norwell, who almost certainly was involved in that legal bullying, which sought to conceal the fact that her pedophile rapist parishioner, Richard Buell, had been charged, tried, and convicted of. Well, that's definitely a supportive honking, and I also got a nice wave from the driver. So yeah, it's not, you know, every 5 minutes that I get a supportive honk. It's not even every hour, or even every day, but I do get a certain number of supportive honks from some of the drivers that go by here. Anyway, getting back to things, you know, it's very clear that Reverend Dr. Victoria Weinstein was basically in collusion with Kathleen K. Montgomery and no doubt some other Unitarian Universalist Association employees in this legal bullying, which sought to have me delete my blog post about Richard Buell, to say nothing of Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell. So yeah, 3 Unitarian Universalists, 2 of them being clergy, 2 of them being top-level UUA leaders, colluded together, no doubt along with some other Unitarian Universalists, to conceal pedophilia and rape committed by